Hello everyone, this is called the Tag de France, an original book tag by Gavin at Genre Books. If you're having trouble hearing right now, it might be because of the loudness of this awesome one-piece shirt I just got the other day. So plug your ears if you feel the need. So this is all about France stuff, and I'm probably going to mangle some of this, but I'm going to try to pronounce these as best I can for you. There are 10 prompts. Prompt number 1. Les Grands Depots. Oh. A memorable preface, introduction, or opening line. So I picked 2001: A Space Odyssey. Now, understand something. I am of the opinion that the experience that I had.
You got mail.
Shut up. I got mail. That I saw the movie first, and then later on would read the book, and I, in hindsight, thought that's a good way to do it. This one's a little more explanatory, and the film is much more mysterious and big and epic. It's ridiculous. And so I would recommend doing that first before reading the book, but this does not pale in comparison. This book is amazing. This is Arthur C. Clarke, one of the greatest writers of all time for a reason. And the opening goes a little something like this right here. This is the foreword. Behind every man now alive stand 30 ghosts, for that is the ratio by which the dead outnumber the living. Since the dawn of time, roughly 100 billion human beings have walked the planet Earth. Now this is an interesting number, for by a curious coincidence, there are approximately 100 billion stars in our local universe, the Milky Way. So for every man who has ever lived in this universe, there shines a star. That's awesome. That's some good Arthur C. Clarke right there. And I'm sure you had to have heard of it. I need to summarize this. Monoliths going out to Jupiter, in this case Saturn, because the book and film were kind of done at the same time, and Kubrick didn't like the way the rings of Saturn would look on film, so he went with Jupiter instead, and that's the biggest difference, really, I guess. So let's see here. All right, here we go. Second prompt. Maillot Vert, I guess. A book under 150 pages. Gavin on his channel elaborates on what a lot of this means and has to do with things like the Tour de France and so forth. Books under 150 pages. One of my favorites I give to people as a recommendation, The God Engines. That is a god that is imprisoned in a spaceship and is used as its engine. A lot of, how shall I say, some bad things about religion, cultism, I guess you could say. People don't matter, gods matter, that sort of thing. This is a shocker of a book. I loved how it ended. This gem, this new thing in my life, I liked it better than The God Engines. A Short Stay in Hell by Stephen L. Peck. This is a mind screw when you really start to realize just how big this little book is. This might be the biggest little book in the world. You go to the bad place, and his job is to find the book that explains his life, but it's all gibberish. It's all, here's a book with all the letter A's, and then a book with all the letter A's and a letter B, and so on. And a mathematician wrote this book, and leave it up to you to discover just how huge this library is, falling for eons, that kind of thing. Looking over my shelves, I was looking for all the little 150 page books. Arthur C. Clarke had a few close calls, but they were a little bit over that. I don't remember reading this. I must have bought it and put it aside. The Vampire, A Tale by John William Podorn. This little tiny book. This thing is 65 pages. I have to give it a go again, I guess. But there it is. That's what I had, 150 page books. So prompt number 3, something in English, Killing the Mountains, a book that you persevered with and are glad that you did. So I tried 3 times with them. And the first time is just too much. I'm like, well, I don't know what the hell's going on. There's too many things being named off, too much information. And then I put it down, gave it a try. Months later, I think the same year, couldn't do it. Then I think something close to a year went by, and I told myself, everybody talks about this damn thing, and I'm feeling kind of dumb. So let me concentrate, and that's what it took. It's not a casual read. You have to just concentrate and think about it a little more than you would most others. And boy, am I glad I did, because this is one of the best books ever written. And I sure as hell enjoyed the new Dune movies, parts 1 and part 2. And I think part 2 blows part 1 out of the water. That's one of the best movies ever created. What do you think? All right, Maillot Jaune. I think I got that one. So that's prompt number 4, a book where yellow is prominent. I got a couple. This is one of the ones that was slightly over 150 pages. The reason I would recommend this, it's a book full of short stories, and quite a few of them. And primarily, though, one of his most famous shorts is called "The 9 Billion Names of God," and it can be found there. The Other Side of the Sky by Arthur C. Clarke. Basically, the 9 billion is a bunch of monks in I believe a Buddhist temple who are using a computer system to calculate all the names of God and the results they get. This one, very yellow book, The Misenchanted Sword by Lawrence Watt Evans. This is I didn't get to this until the century turned over, but though I remember in the 80s coming across it in like old Dungeons and Dragons Dragon magazine. They were talking about it in a review section. And this is I want to just say in tone, vaguely, the way that Harry Potter feels. These books, all in the realms of Ethshar, and I don't know how many books, they got like 14, 15 books now they're in the series. They're all pretty lighthearted. There's usually a magical problem that has to be solved, and this is the first one. This is this guy here, Balder, comes across this guy right here after a war had just ended, but he needs to get across the country, and this wizard here makes a sword for him so he might be able to survive the process, and he becomes unbeatable. The problem, eventually the sword's going to turn on him and take his life, and he needs to find a way out of that. The magic system is a little interesting. I almost wanted to do a whole video on this series, but the magic system has starts like level 1, 2, 3, all the way up to 13. I think the author overstates something a little bit when he says a level 2 spell, or orders are not levels. An order 2 spell is 10 times as powerful as an order 1 spell. But I think by the time you get up to a level 12, 13 spell, you're starting to get in nuclear weapon range or something. So it's a little, you just ignore that, but you get the idea. These are fun books. I don't even know that this is my favorite one, but a nice introduction to that world. You can just read them in publication order. Number 5, Lantern Rouge, a book you relate to. That was an easy one. I didn't read Lord of the Rings until just, I think, a couple years ago. I read The Hobbit about a year before that. So this, I happened across Lord of the Rings as a young child in the early 80s when those animated features had come out. But they came to cable first. I didn't go see them in theaters or anything. I don't even know if they were really released in theaters. I don't know. And I loved those. As a little kid watching the Super Fantasy cartoon. And then they were always sort of there when you look at Dungeons and Dragons stuff. There's you see advertisements for Middle-earth role-playing games. Lord of the Rings comes up in fantasy discussion everywhere. I did go see the Pete Jackson films and just loved them. I even kind of like the sequels, although they obviously got really messy. They're not as good as the first 3, but sometimes they've been on, or I'll just put them on. It's like, this is okay, it's not bad. But but I did read this a couple years ago, but because I think the story had been with me for so long, they just, as a book, didn't impact me the way that maybe they should have, and certainly have impacted others. I just read way too many books, and this is with me for a long time, so it's still damn good. I still enjoyed reading it. It's just it didn't become my automatic favorite fantasy series as a result, which I have an answer for coming up here. So ordered, but everybody should read this. If you call this the greatest fantasy series of all time, I agree. I can't disagree. My personal favorite's a little different, but that's okay. So, all right, here we go. Hors category. What's the hardest book that you've read or failed to read? So, this is called The Fall of the Dragons by Miles Cameron. This is the 5th and final book in this series called The Traitor Sun Cycle. First 4 books. Book 1 and 4, really good books. Books 2 and 3, 2 of the best, greatest, most wonderful books I've ever read. I love them. Then we get to this. I don't know what happened, but I'll give you the hard part. So in the first book, it's a siege book, and there's this portal. They can't get through it. Well, okay, I'm spoiling you. They get through it. They get to the portal. They mount up. Army strong. All right, let's start writing. Let's go this way. They start writing, and they're writing. All right, well, let's write over there. They start writing, and they write some over. What's going on here? This is pissing you off yet? Because it pissed me off when I was reading it. Let's write over here. We're gonna write over here now. Look, we're writing over here. We meet some people. Okay, we didn't get anything out of that conversation. Right? And by the time I got to the end, I think they beat the bad guy, whatever. I just didn't care. It's just, I love the other book so much. I just went ahead and dug through it, and what a headache. Just a disappointment. Sorry, Miles Cameron. Dropped the ball on that one for poor Monty Atkins. 7, Endurance, your favorite series. So I did 2 things because I had a little trouble here. So I have a definite favorite fantasy series, The Chronicles of Thomas Covenant, the Unbeliever. The Chronicles of Thomas Covenant, the Unbeliever, pardon me. Things in. And The Lord Fowl's Bane is the start of that. Comes in yellow too. And just, this is, I almost can't recommend it for everybody. It's not, some people call it grim dark. I don't believe so. I call it an opera in book form. I have a whole video where I talk about this and the atrocity the lead character commits and sexual assault at the beginning of this book. And then it just goes on for 10 books, 10 successful books, 10 great books. They're all great books. And it's just high super drama fantasy. And I was just compelled. If you start reading this, you can't get past the atrocity. I understand. I don't want to take too much time with this. There's reasons for it that aren't what authors usually use. I think I'll put a link in the final panel, so if you want to hear me talk at length about it, I will. And there's kind of half spoilers, half not spoilers. Nice non-spoiler section to hope entice you enough to get into it. Also, not that I thought anything was particularly boring, but he can carry on a little bit as an author, and so you get these long bouts of explanation, and somebody's telling a story or something. But I enjoyed every single book. This is my favorite one. It was just one of those things where I'm at work doing my job, and all of a sudden realized for the past 20 minutes I had been thinking about something that I had read in whatever particular book and thinking about its ramifications so far. So that's my favorite one. The favorite sci-fi series I had a real trouble with because there's quite a bit, and I probably read a little bit more science fiction than I do fantasy, and I generally prefer it for the most part. There were some really strong contenders. Ian Banks' The Culture. I just read Annihilation, The Southern Reach by Jeff Vandermeer, which I just loved. I can't remember the name of the series, but Leviathan Wakes, I can't remember the name of this whole series, what they called it, but I'll quit over in here. But that was great. But this one, I have to say, I own more books by Larry Niven than anyone else. This is Ringworld. It's not just the Ringworld series, it's a whole series of books called Known Space. So he's created a whole universe to go play in. I am of the opinion that before you read Ringworld, you should read a book of his called Protector. And that doesn't necessarily act as a preview to this, but things in that come up later in the Ringworld series, so it's probably a good idea to read that first. Protector is a more hard science fiction book. Ringworld, pure space opera. Niven was a mathematician. I can't remember what kind of degree he got, but we have the Ringworld here. And to give you just an idea of the size, so there's a sun, a star about the size of our sun. If you imagine a candle lit in the middle of a room, then you take a piece of Christmas ribbon and encircle it, so it's with the flame in the middle. That would be the sun, and that would be how about a 50-foot diameter, and that would be how big the Ringworld is. So it's 93 million miles in radius, a million miles across right there. There is a full-size map of the Earth flat on the Ringworld floor, so the size draws you in. Like a lot of science fiction, I think the idea is that in fantasy things tend to be more character-driven, I guess, and in science fiction more idea-driven. But I do like the characters in these books, and the aliens, especially in a lot of the known space books. Larry Niven is very good about aliens that. Some of them are humanoid, some of them are not, but the sociology that they have between them and how they mix with other species is amazing. It's one great thing Larry Niven does is aliens, and this is no exception. Ringworld, known space. Let's see here. Champs-Élysées, your favorite Paris novel. I almost failed with this one, I think, but then I remembered I read The Inkle last year. This features Mobius, and if I can get that on camera for you, this is probably the most famous shot in that book of this fellow here, our lead guy, having a nice fall in the megalopolis, the megacity. This, I always wanted to read it, but one of the motivating factors was the movie The Fifth Element, because Mobius worked on that film. And if you've never read this and you've seen The Fifth Element, if you go back to read this, you're like, oh, that's a lot of Fifth Element in here. The publishers of The Inkle tried to sue the filmmakers because how dare you do this? How dare you make a movie that's so much like this? Well, they failed because Mobius himself, these are a lot of his ideas, he worked on The Fifth Element, so ultimately the lawsuit failed. This is a lot of great artwork, and a very Lilu-like character is in there. There's a center of the weapon moment in here. Is just a fun read right there. So it's got a good sense of humor to it too. It's like reading The Fifth Element. It's really good. Alrighty, we are just about done here. This one is just a general question. Number 9, Lance Armstrong. Have you ever cheated to get to the finish quicker? Well, sure, yeah, not ashamed of it. Every so often somebody's just slogging too much. If I find myself skimming a bit, it's okay. Like if someone's fixing a meal and talking about the meal, I might stick with it, but it's like, I don't need to know about food that much. I might skip through that. I don't do this very often. I'd rather just read the whole book. I don't want to miss things. But every so often you just hit a spot that, whatever, and maybe skip over it a bit. Someone once told me if you hit a real bad slog, but there's lots of dialogue, you can just go through and read the dialogue. But I think you miss some of the inner thoughts that go behind that dialogue when a particular character's thinking about what they're wanting to say and not say. So I haven't tried that yet. Yeah, I'd rather just read through, but sure, every once in a while you just gotta skim a little. Not every. Is there a perfect author? I don't know. I don't know. The last one is Booktube. Tag some others of the Booktube team. So Gavin here tagged a crap load of people here, and a lot of them are people I would have tagged. So mine are going to be a lot less. Let's see, there's Benjamin at Benjamin Books. I'm going to tag him. I'm going to tag McKenna loves content. I don't think she did a Booktube yet. Tag yet. I am going to tag Chanelish nowadays. I don't know if she likes doing these, but we'll see. I forgot someone I was going to tag was Read by Fred in his batch. I'll tag Read by Fred too, so that's 4 I'm going to tag. That's it. Got that done. Nice Booktube tag day. I like doing them. If I can go through the questions and bam, list them right off, do some book tags. Still not much going on the old job front. Just waiting for them to give us all a call in, get to working. Otherwise, sit around, watch TV, and read books, which ain't a bad thing. I've got months of money, but I don't want to see it go to waste sitting around. Anyway, thank you very much. I hope you get something out of all these books and find something you didn't read and want to read now. Have a good day. Bye-bye.